I'm Emily.
And I'm Natalie. Welcome to the Stride Sisters podcast.
On today's episode, I am joined by Emily Taylor, who captained the history-making RunDisney Villains Take Chicago team for the American Cancer Society at the Chicago Marathon in 2025. We talk through her RunDisney and Abbott World Marathon Majors journeys, with some fundraising tips along the way. If you're seeing stars yourself and wishing to make the leap into the world of charity bibs for your next race, you won't want to miss this one. So, lace up your shoes and step into the magic with us. Hi, everybody. It's Princess Week. Woohoo! I am so excited for that. And I cannot believe it's the end of February. I feel like I am just constantly marveling at the calendar every single day. But it is super exciting. I am so excited to be on my way. I leave today for Princess Half Marathon weekend and see everybody, be in Florida, be away from the snow. I'm excited. Almost certainly will be the cap to my RunDisney season. So I'm just excited to have a good time, to have good races, and just be in the bubble back in Florida with everybody. No news to report necessarily on the Blister Brigade. I will say we have, I'm name pending. We have some touchy toenails of terror. I don't know. I'm still working on it. That have popped up. So working on a name for some troublesome toenails. Maybe that's going to be it. That we're experiencing in the group. So join the Facebook page if you really want to talk toenails, is what I'm hearing. In terms of training, I have been really good about doing my workouts for Sculpt and Soar. I've gotten them all in this week. I am going to eventually add in the optional Friday day, but right now it's just trying to keep up. And again, still very sore, but I'm enjoying the challenge. I'm enjoying upping the weights. I'm enjoying, using some of those muscles that I have been neglecting. And it's kind of funny because I feel like I've really settled into the workout at this point, which means I know it changes next week for a new month. And yeah, but I'm enjoying challenging myself and just seeing where things go. I feel like I can already tell a little bit more with strength I don't want to just reduce this down to like physically, like how I look, because that's the least interesting thing to me. It's more, ensuring it's like my insurance on me being older and, keeping my bones and my hips and my muscles all strong so that when I am older, I can go to the toilet on my own. Great visual there. But that is what's the most important to me. But I feel like I can already start to see a little bit of a difference, and I'm really enjoying it so far. The garment of shame is being rude, as she does, where it's like, you have a acute load. I'm like, you can stop. Especially, like you're in maintaining mode, you're in recovery mode. I'm like, yes, I am running a little less right now because I am trying to really lean into strength training. But it's fine. I care a lot more about strengthening my body than I do what my mean Garmin tells me. Anywho, there are just 2 days until Princess Half Marathon weekend. So yesterday, you should have gotten your check-in pass in your email, and we should get shirt colors tomorrow. So, I haven't done this of like the bet on shirt colors in a little bit. And I think maybe I'm just going to go full Delulu because that's just what I do now. And I'm thinking we're going to definitely have something orange, something yellow. I don't know. I really want to see that like a gorgeous emerald green, and like that is just what I want. Okay, we're just going with what I want. And so we're going to go with an emerald green, and then obviously token blue has to be there in some way, shape, or form. So, you might think I'm thinking, oh, like the 10K will be orange, like they kind of line up. No, in some way they're not going to line up to what the characters actually are. But I don't know. Then again, Disneyland, they did a really good job. I loved all the shirts. They were all super cute. So we will see how that goes. Can't change my packing personally. So, because I am already going to be there by this point. There's 51 days until Springtime Surprise Weekend 2026. 240 days until Wine and Dine Half Marathon Weekend 2026. Your proof of time deadline is on June 1st of 2026. And I still don't know when the shirt deadline is. So if you know and you want to let me know. And then 316 days until Marathon Weekend 2027. Club Run Disney registration is on March 10th, and general registration is Luck of the Irish St. Patrick's Day on March 17th. So those are quickly approaching. In terms of news, I'm going to keep things a little bit lighter and just our Run Disney focused for this. I'm sure it's not really a secret at this point that when I leave for a race weekend on a Tuesday, that I got to record in advance. So I'm going to keep all other Disney news into next week's episode because I have to record that already. So I'm going to focus on we finally got the Springtime Surprise medals. Huzzah! They're here. They made it. Our 5K is, Zootopia themed. It is in the shape of a badge. And that's pretty cute. The 10K is the Pooh and Tigger honey pot. It is so flipping cute. I just love it. And there's like glitter. It seems like movable glitter in the honey pot. So like I think if you tilt the metal, it'll kind of go one way versus the other. The 10 miler is Joy and Sadness. And for those who were worried, this definitely looks different than the Disneyland 5K medal. Which I expected it to. And it seems like the little like kind of like memory orbs on the metal have the glitter in them. And like this is contained and it's like kind of like, I almost called it a lava lamp, which I guess it's kind of the same concept of like a glitter in there where you move things and that seems where the glitter is going about. Or maybe it is stationary, but I think it seems like it's more of like a lava lamp. Speaking of lamps, our challenge is the Aladdin and Genie. And it seems like kind of Genie's like tail is glittery. Can you tell I'm excited about the glitter, even though I am most likely not going to be getting these medals? The glitter is so cute. I really like it. And the 10 miler and challenge medals do have the 5 years running on there on the actual medal. So this is the 5th iteration of Springtime Surprise since Run Disney came back and this replaced Star Wars. I am curious if they do go back on what they said about no perfect status for this. Because mostly the 5 years running is what we hear and see when there is like an anniversary and they are establishing perfect status. So I don't know. I will be just a little salty if they do, but I did miss 2024. So I don't know. Really wasn't a way for me to get to that race. I mean, like when there's a will, there's a way. But like in terms of what I had going on, no, nar, as I keep saying. One thing we did get, though, is in terms of theming, we got kind of like a sneak peek of the Marathon Weekend 2027 theme and artwork. So it is the 30th anniversary of the half marathon. And the half marathon focuses on a certain duck. So it's not Oswald, it's Donald. So it seems like Marathon Weekend's going to be kind of like a love letter to Donald. I don't know necessarily from Daisy, but whatever. But it seems like we have yellows and blues and like his hat The one little logo or kind of character we haven't seen on the sneak peek, because we don't have the full artwork yet, is Dopey. So that'll be interesting because we have not seen Dopey yet in the artwork. But that was a little tease, and that was a little surprising that we got that prior to the medals, because the medals came Friday, the 20th, and we got the marathon weekend sneak peek a few days prior to that. So I don't know. I'm really interested to see how it goes. I can't wait to see the full artwork. Note from the editor. I need like a sound effect or something. I'm not going to use the beep button. That's about all I know how to do right now. I know that we got the marathon weekend theme reveal yesterday morning as of day of drop. I'm going to talk about it next week, though, as much as I really want to talk about it right now. Stay tuned. Again, all other kind of Disney news, there was some others that I'm going to kind of cover next with next week's episode. But there's always time for a fun fact. On this day in 2008, Brad Bird accepts the award for Best Animated Feature for Disney Pixar's Ratatouille at the 80th Academy Awards. Ratatouille was also nominated for, but did not win, Best Original Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Sound Editing, and Best Sound Mixing. So that is quite the fun fact. Love a little, Ratatouille action. On this day in 2013, Brave, produced by Pixar and distributed by Walt Disney Pictures, wins the Oscar for Best Animated Feature. And it beat out Wreck-It Ralph and Frankenweenie. I'm more familiar with one of those than the other. So, on to the main show. I am so excited to welcome Emily onto the show. I've been wanting to get her on for a little while because as, we're getting into marathon weekend, registration is so close, as well as I know New York City's lottery gets called next week. So a lot of people I know are seeking, who aren't already committed to charity, maybe seeking out charity bibs and, kind of taking that dip into fundraising, especially even if it isn't your first time fundraising, kind of some of these amounts, it can seem really daunting, but there's a lot of good conversation and advice that we have for this episode that we talk about. So welcome to Emily.
Well, we are happy to welcome here today our queen villain and Chicago captain, Emily. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Natalie. How are you?
Just fine and dandy, all things considered, for the winter in the Midwest. So, Emily, we're going to have you introduce a little bit about you to the listeners. Just kind of a light intro, and then we'll kind of go into how you got started with Run Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Emily. I actually live in Florida, not too far from Disney. In fact, I've been a long time Disney goer. I remember going as a child with my father. So, just Disney's been my whole life, my family, grandparents, everything. I feel like actually that I'm at the parks almost every weekend at this point. Yeah, I'm living some people's dream over here.
And it doesn't ever get old, does it?
It does not. It really doesn't. Every time you go, there's some sort of magic, some sort of new magic. Even to this day, as an adult, you go and there's always something that you feel like is new and you've never experienced before when you go to Disney.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. So how did Run Disney come into the picture here?
That's actually a really interesting question for me. So I actually knew nothing about the Run Disney events until 2019, which is really weird because, like I said, I'd been going to Disney, but it was one of those things that just became new because, Run Disney Marathon Weekend, we just celebrated 33 years of the marathon. So Marathon Weekend's been around for a while. And one day I was just browsing Facebook. This was back in, 2020 before the pandemic and everything. I had a Facebook pop up for actually Marathon Weekend about running through Disney. And I'm like, this is crazy. How have I never heard or seen of this before of all of my years going? And, I ended up messaging a friend and I was like, hey, they have like this running event that you can run through the park. And it sounded amazing. We were both huge Disney fans. I sent it to him and he's like, hey, let's go and do it. Originally our plan was to sign up for the 5K because course, we weren't runners. I did track in middle school, and that was about it. So we were planning to sign up for the 5K. And this was actually back when like annual pass holders could sign up before anybody else, like before general registration. So I got in, logged in, went to sign up, and I'm like, oh, like a 10K is actually only 3.1 miles further. Like, you want to just go ahead and do the 10K? And he's like, yeah, sure, let's do that. So we signed up for the 10K, and it was actually just, it wasn't pretty. So we did maintain that sub 16 that Disney asked for, but all I could remember was like, we went out there and just absolutely had like the best time. We didn't even know what we were doing. I don't even think we were dressed appropriately for a race, but it was just absolutely amazing to go out there and just have all of this fun.
That is so funny because I feel like our stories are almost the same, but mine is Princess of that year. About a month later of, you see a little bit about it. Mine actually was my cousin and one of my best friends who was also like, oh, well, 10K is only, I want to make sure if I'm going to go down to Florida, I'm going to go do a 10K instead of a 5K. And I was like, well, I want to do that too. That's how I actually led me into charity. Charity was my first intro to Run Disney because that was after registration, of course. That is so funny that the 10K was the gateway. Now, did you come out of that race going, okay, like I'm never doing that again, but like I'm also absolutely doing that again a million times, and like thinking about like what your next move was?
Yeah. So originally when we signed up, our thought process was like, we'll do this one time, we'll have fun. It'll be great. And like, once we were done, we had learned that there were other event weekends, and we were like, oh my goodness, we had so much fun. We want to do more. So I went to, of course, the registration, everything sold out. And that's when I stumbled onto the charity page. And the one that I was looking for was actually Star Wars 2020, which we unfortunately know did get canceled. But at the time, COVID wasn't a thing. It hadn't been canceled yet. So we had actually reached out to the American Cancer Society about getting bibs with them for Star Wars weekend. And that is where my love for the American Cancer Society actually started. We grabbed the Star Wars bibs with them for 2020, which did, like I said, unfortunately got canceled. And then Wine and Dine 2021, and I believe I actually did Wine and Dine 2021 virtual, as well as Wine and Dine 2020, Marathon Weekend 2021, and then Princess Weekend 2021 virtual with the American Cancer Society, because they did do registrations. We weren't sure how long COVID was going to last. Mm-hmm. A lot of the charities took a hit, unfortunately, because they did allow individuals to withdraw from the races since the races were canceled. The American Cancer Society had reached out to me about withdrawing my Star Wars entry, and then as well as my Princess entry that I had with them for 2021. And I said to them, I was like, you know what? I've raised like half the money at this point. Let's just see it through. I'll do the virtual event. It's fine. They were very grateful that I had done that, because so many people did actually withdraw and get released from their commitments. And as I said, that impacted not just American Cancer Society, but every charity with Run Disney.
Absolutely. Okay, the parallels again is that first 10K was through American Cancer Society for me. So, oh my gosh. Wow. That is so interesting, because I actually don't think I've talked to somebody who had a charity bib during that time, because I had registrations during that time. I was going to be at every single weekend, not like a perfect season of any sorts, because for a lot of reasons, but but then it was, as the email came, due to unforeseen circumstances. I didn't have a charity bib though. So that is interesting with what they were offering for. Was it just withdrawing, or could you defer and get a spot for the following year? Or I can understand why they couldn't really offer that, because if they didn't know, they didn't know. You didn't want to roll something forward in perpetuity.
Yeah. So specifically for the American Cancer Society, they were offering to just release you from your fundraising commitment, and you would not be able to participate with the virtual entry. So you would be withdrawn from Run Disney. You weren't going to receive the virtual medals in the mail and the shirts and everything, which of course was an option that I could understand people choosing to take, since they were not going to be participating in an actual race. However, like I said, I had raised a good chunk of the money at this point, so I figured I would just see it through. I'm not 100% sure what other charities offered at the time, but, working closely with the American Cancer Society, kind of staying on board with their team actually opened a lot of opportunities with them, and really getting to know their staff and how the charity program works, which has been very beneficial for me, just now with my long time standing of now running for charity.
That's awesome. I was going to lead into that as a question, is I guess that's a really good point that you make, that every charity does operate a little bit differently. And that's something I like to say, because I mostly have fundraised for American Cancer Society. I have had a couple other charity bibs along the way too, but it's mostly been for American Cancer Society. So I'm the most familiar with that, like start to finish, in terms of how the process goes of, hey, either I don't want to deal with general registration, or I didn't get in on general registration, but I still want to do this. So at least on the RunDisney side of things. So I'm the most familiar with that. So if you're listening out here, definitely take things with a grain of salt, because your charity may be different, but we're both very passionate about American Cancer Society. So talk to me a little bit about how that relationship grew a little bit and led you to some other races outside RunDisney.
Absolutely. So in the process of being on the team with the American Cancer Society, I really want to stress to your listeners that it's not just getting a bib, not by any means.
Agreed.
I made lifelong friends through the American Cancer Society, people that I would not have met had I not been on their RunDisney team. I was even brought on board to be a RunDisney team determination committee member, where we actually did a lot of work with assisting new runners, managing our Facebook page, just anything that the American Cancer Society needed in relation to RunDisney and how we could help. There was a committee of about 8 to 10 of us that did this. Many of us specialized in fundraising, or maybe we just knew RunDisney. We could provide travel input for anybody new to traveling to Disney, anything that they possibly needed. It was a great outlet for the team. So I was involved with that for a while. And then we did kind of downscale that a little bit. Most of the original members are still around. We still assist where we can, but the actual committee itself is no longer operational. But it's still a fantastic resource that we're there. We have access to the Facebook page. We can help those. So just kind of something to keep in mind when you run with a charity, that you have these resources. Many charity runners have been running with the charity for a very long time, and they usually run with the same charity. Now, with that said, obviously I got my start with RunDisney. That's where my endurance world started. Ended up in the process learning about the World Marathon Majors, which is previously was just London, Berlin, Tokyo, Chicago, New York, and Boston. They have since added Sydney, as most people know, and then looking to add Cape Town and Shanghai. Mm-hmm. I learned about this and I went, oh, new challenge. So, you start with RunDisney, and then it's just kind of a gateway to other stuff, as Disney usually is.
Question before you continue. Did you Dopey first, or did you World Major first?
So I actually did Dopey first. I ran Dopey with the American Cancer Society. My first Dopey was 2023. Yes, because I just did my fourth Dopey.
Emily, same.
And that was, not only was it my first Dopey, it was also my first marathon. And yeah, I mean, that happens to a lot of people with RunDisney. Dopey just becomes your first marathon. It was amazing, though. I had so much fun. And my logic with Dopey, I was a little nervous about it, like anybody going into their first marathon. Mm-hmm. So I went, I'm going to fundraise with the American Cancer Society and raise a bunch of money, because in the event that things don't go well and I get swept, at least I can say I raised a lot of money, and that's fantastic. So I grabbed a bib. With the ACS, ran Dopey. I successfully finished Dopey, had a great time. And at this point, I did know about the World Marathon Majors. I was looking to pursue them. And actually, my original plan for pursuing them was I was going to run the Berlin Marathon in 2023. And of course, that was with the ACS. Mm-hmm. Now, plans don't always go as you plan them. And I ended up getting offered a bib to run the London Marathon in 2023. So the London Marathon was actually my first world major. I got offered the bib maybe just a few weeks after Dopey. So it was a very weird, just, hey, I just did Dopey. Like, things are still hurting. Let me go run in London. And like I said, I only got offered the bib in like February. Booked a flight to London, went to London, ran the London Marathon. It's actually my favorite marathon ever. Like, I know this is, kind of a Disney podcast, but I've got to be honest, London's my favorite. And I would do London every year if they would let me.
Ooh.
Yeah. So with that said, I was actually still signed up to run Berlin though with the ACS in 2023. So I did go in 2023 and I ran the Berlin Marathon and got my second star in Berlin.
0 to 3 marathons. That's what I'm hearing.
So 3 marathons in 2023.
How did that go? Like, it went?
It went really well.
Good.
Yep. Like I said, London's my favorite. Berlin's a lot of fun as well. So highly recommend that one. Both London and Berlin, relatively flat, which makes it great. So yeah, I got my second star in Berlin. Now, continuing kind of this all goes really fast. I'm sorry, but continuing on with that, I had actually entered the lottery to run the Tokyo Marathon. And I had heard the Tokyo Marathon was actually really hard to get into. So I was like, I'm going to enter the lottery for a few years. And then in the event that it doesn't happen, when I'm ready, I'm going to go the charity route. And the Tokyo charity route's a little bit different. It's recently changed, but back in 2023, 2024, it was a little different. You kind of you didn't really fundraise in the traditional way. You kind of just made a large donation to a Japanese charity, which is fine. However, I entered the lottery to run the Tokyo Marathon in 2024 for the first time, and I got in.
Wow. You were the second person I've heard that happen to.
Yeah. So, and this is actually, I think I was actually in Berlin at the time. Oh, no. I had just gotten home from Berlin when they did the lottery announcement. And I'm like, oh, wait, hang on.
Still can't sit on the toilet, right? Like,
I'm looking at this. I'm like, is this saying like what I think it's saying? Am I going to Tokyo right now? And so literally in less than a year, I had run all 3 international world majors. I went London 2023, Berlin 2023 to Tokyo 2024. And Tokyo was my 3rd star.
Wow. That is incredible. And then with a dopey in another dopey in the middle there too?
Oh, yes, I did do Dopey in 2024 as well. Because why not?
Oh, yeah, why not? That's just what we do.
At that point, when you find out you're in for the Tokyo Marathon, like you've already registered for Dopey. So, we're doing Dopey, and then we're going to go to Tokyo and do that. I actually ran Princess Weekend the weekend before Tokyo.
Oh, yeah, because it wasn't the same weekend before, so it was, woo!
Yeah.
That is quite the coast-to-coast challenge of sorts.
It was.
How was marathon training for like over a year, for like almost a year and a half? How did that go?
So, that's actually been my life for the last few years. I'm actually always marathon trained right now. Like everybody goes, oh, you just ran Dopey or you just ran this marathon. Are you going to take a few weeks off? And I'm like, no, because I have a marathon now in like 3 months. So I just kind of roll it in. I usually do like a short taper, like a short reverse taper there, to give myself a little bit of a break coming off the marathon. But then I just roll back into like my standard marathon training. I usually pick it up kind of in like my long run, starting at about 8 to 9 miles and then kind of increase from there. And that's been my life since 2023.
What's your favorite season to train in? Well, I guess you're in Florida, so you have like hot or less hot, but.
So for me, I can actually train like in the dead of summer, like, and be fine. I'm a born and raised Floridian. Not saying that you should go out and run in astronomically hot heat, but for me, it's never quite bothered me. I am typically an afternoon runner as well. So I will go out after work at 5 o'clock in the middle of summer and run outside at 5 o'clock. It's just something that doesn't impact me quite as much as maybe some other people. And again, not telling anybody to go out and run in the heat, it's just what works for me and my time schedule.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've run Tokyo now.
We've done
What's
Tokyo.
next? What's next?
So in 2024, so Chicago is in October. And I knew that I was going to do Chicago. Actually, my original plan was to do Chicago first. Like I said, plans don't always go as planned. And I ended up not being able to do Chicago in 2023 because a race that had been canceled due to a hurricane the year before deferred us onto the same date. Yeah, so I went, I'm going to do Chicago then in 2024. So I registered with the American Cancer Society. They are actually based in Chicago. So they have a huge team. Like they get about 1,000 bibs for the Chicago Marathon. It was already a nonprofit I loved, I supported, signed up for them. I didn't have a team. The team was actually just me and my friend Karen at the time. She also wanted to run it. It was her first star. It was going to be my fourth star. So we went out, signed up, fundraised, went and ran Chicago. We just had like the absolute best time on the Chicago Marathon course. I mean, the spectators there, they show up and they, it was just an incredible experience. All of the other marathons were great, but Chicago just was something special, maybe because it was in the ACS's backyard.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it seemed more enjoyable for me, I guess you can say. And just being there with people that I knew, like I knew many of the staff partners with the ACS from like Run Disney and other events that I did. So it was just great to be there with them. So we run Chicago, and then sitting in the airport to fly home from Chicago, my friend Karen and I were like, hey, let's do this again next year. We had such a great time. At this point, we've already become, Run Disney Villains. We've done DLS. We've known a lot of people on the team. My first DLS was, and Karen's first DLS actually was Princess Weekend of 2023. So we knew so many people at this point. And I said to Karen, is like, hey, like, let's make a team. Like several people had already like talked to me about Chicago, and they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing it 2025. Like, can you let me know like when we can sign up with the ACS? We'd love to run with them. And so, like I said, Karen and I sitting in the airport, registration for the Chicago Marathon with the ACS actually opens the day after the marathon. Registration had just opened. I'm sitting in the chair. I'm like, I'm going to create a team for us right now. And then I can't remember if I said it or Karen said it. One of us said like, hey, let's post it on Facebook and see if anyone wants to like be on a team, since we had so many people ask about it. And I'm like, okay, great. So I go to Facebook, I make the post. I'm like, hey, making a Chicago Marathon team, come join our team. It'll be amazing. And I did get a few people signing up here and there, but most of them were villains. Mm-hmm. And so I start noticing this, and then I did have a group chat already with some villains, and they start messaging like, hey, I signed up to be on your team. And I'm like, this is great. And then before we even boarded the plane, I think we were at like 14 people signed up on the team. And I'm like, wow, okay, like this is going great. And in my mind, I was thinking like, oh, we'll maybe get 15, 20 people. And that would be fantastic. That's amazing. There's so many people know cancer, have been touched by cancer. If we have a team of 20 people, we're going to raise a good chunk of money, and we're going to have a great time doing it. And then somebody ended up taking the post, and they posted it actually in our super secret villains Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it just like exploded. I don't know what, how, where, I have no idea. But I had suddenly, like within the week, we made it to about 40 people on the team. Once we were at about between 40 and 50 people, the ACS staff partner had reached out to me and like, hey, your team's getting kind of big. Like, just an FYI, if you raise this much money, it was 175, you get to name a research grant. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, and I'm thinking like at 40 people, we may not get there, but it's 40 people that I know. So we're going to try. And I ended up telling the team that, and they were like, oh, wait, hang on. I've got, this friend over here who wants to sign up, or this other villain hasn't signed up yet, but they're going to. And I'm like, okay, we'll tell them to sign up. And then before I know it, we're at 99 people.
Of which I was one.
You were one of them, yes.
I saw DW post it on their Instagram and I went, oh, that sounds fun. Because I honestly, honest to God, I was pretty sure that I was ready for Chicago. I had been on the tip of my tongue for a long time, actually, leading up to this. My older brother ran it for American Cancer Society in 2013 while our dad was still alive. And when my dad was dying, I made a silent promise at his bedside that I would run a marathon in his honor. And in my mind, it was always going to be Chicago. Dopey came first, and then a Goofy, then another Dopey. I started seeing all this the day before his death anniversary, which is in mid-October. So what other way, and it was his 10-year death anniversary too. That's when I told my family, because I was signed up by this point. Like literally seeing a group of RunDisney people, I was like, oh, that's it. I'm done. I'm good. That was the last little piece for me to do it. So when I saw DW post, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, Villains? Oh, that's cute. That like Villains are raising money for Chicago. And like, I was familiar with the idea of DLS, but like, this was how I dove in. But it was this. It was like, oh, okay. There was the last little push I needed. Do something that scared me. That I knew I wanted to do it, but it also kind of scared me because I'm like, there's not Mickey Mouse here. Like, what am I like? There's not a roller coaster at mile 17. Instructions unclear. Not sure what to do. That was the last little piece that scared me. But knowing I would be among RunDisney people was what did it.
Yeah, definitely bringing together a group of friends makes a world of difference when you dive into something like this. I knew most of the people on the team. There's a handful of people who were spouses of villains, or maybe like a friend. A couple people were like siblings that joined the team as well, which we were fine with. I mean, you and we met in the Club RunDisney line, like
right. I was like, I love your ACS gear. And you're like, oh, I was like, yeah, I'm running Chicago with them. I'm like, we're your captains.
Exactly. Like it was just crazy how some of us just kind of came together the way we did. And for our team, it was just the most absolute amazing group of people. We actually had a handful of people, 2 or 3 that were going through their own cancer battle during fundraising, training, and then running. So there was people who had, a personal journey, and personal reasons for wanting to be on this team, and, finding out about naming the grant and being part of something that big was a huge motivator for some of them, because, it's one thing to sign up and, fundraise, and many people sign up and fundraise just the minimum, which is totally fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just raising the minimum is game changer for any charity. But for us, a lot of people, I did have fears would look at us and, say, oh, well, they were a big team and that's why they raised so much money and that's why they were able to name the grant. No, it wasn't that simple. Many of us had to raise quite a bit of money. And for the average person, in order to name the grant, was upwards of $2,000 each. And at the time, the minimum was $1,500. So you had to raise individually more than $2,000. I think it was more than $2,200 each in order to, get enough to name the grant. So it wasn't as simple as like, oh, they got to do it because they raised the minimum. Many of us went above and beyond to raise so much money. We held events. We did a Blaze fundraiser on Disney Springs. There was so much that happened. The Chaos Crew did 24-hour torture where they ran a mile every hour for 24 hours. There was a lot of effort went into this and a lot of thoughts. And, I want to say, like, as the captain, I had something to do with this, but no, truly it was a collective team effort of everybody wanting to come together and raise as much money as they can. And we even had people on the team who'd never run a marathon before. Like, Chicago was their first marathon. So they just went, you know what, I'm going to go out and try this because I'm going to be making a difference in the fight against cancer. We were actually assigned, we call her our chaos coordinator, but we were actually assigned our own staff partner with the American Cancer Society, because our team got so big and we got so so extra, you can say, that we needed our own our own ringleader, and we named her the chaos coordinator.
Long live chaos, of which we caused a good amount, all for a good cause, of course. But oh man, I feel like I want to almost go sequentially with some of the different fundraising things that we did over the year. I'd say for the most, or I was probably the closest aligned with the Just a Buck group, where I took over for Monica a couple weeks of where she couldn't do the wheel spin of like everyone's gonna donate, and the group is gonna donate $1 to them, and then usually if I was donating $1, I was donating a couple bucks at least, if not more. But talk to me about the 24 hours of torture. Were you were
Yes.
there, correct?
I was not there, unfortunately.
Oh,
I had some stuff going on that weekend that I wasn't able to join them. However, I did meet up with them for dinner to learn how it went, and I did get some tips and tricks from them on things not to do next time. But the 24 hours of torture. So a group of our team members, I want to say it was between 10 and 15, if I'm kind of counting off the top of my head a little bit. They got together at Disney and they went out and ran a mile every hour on the hour. And they did it for donations. Now, it wasn't as simple as just going out and running a mile and then going back to bed. For more money, they put on crazy costumes. There was some drag involved. There was a stop at Boardwalk where they ate the pickled corn dog at yes, there was a lot of questionable things that happened, all to raise money, and they actually raised a good amount of money. So they, like I said, they started, I want to say they started at 5 p.m. the day before.
Yeah.
Got up every hour. They mixed it up. They went out on Disney Springs. They went out and ran kind of the walkthrough between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. They ran around Magic Kingdom, anywhere that they could get some miles in. They did stay off-site at an off-site resort. And during the night miles, they just kind of ran around the resort there. But during the day where they could access anything, they went out and ran the miles there. And of course, people had questions, wanted to know what these crazy people were doing. So that's kind of how it started. And I want to say it was Monica's idea. Yeah. I don't remember for sure. It sounds like a Monica thing.
It does.
It was incredible though to see them. And funny thing there is actually that morning before they started, several of them ran the SeaWorld race that morning. So they ran, then went out and did this. I mean, and I know this because my boyfriend was one of the crazy ones that did this. So there was a lot of running, and they call it 24 hours of torture, but honestly, I think they just had way too much fun doing it.
Oh, yeah. Everyone looked like they had so much fun. I was glued to the group to see like just what everything was that was going on. And like this person just changed costumes. This person just did this. And just like the videos and like kind of like at overtime, like mile 19. I mean, morale was always good, but also by a certain point of, can't sleep all that much. Just little quick power naps.
It was, I don't know if I would do it now that I've heard from them. Like I said, they did bring some tips and tricks for us if anyone wanted to attempt it. But I think that overall it was one of our more successful fundraisers that we did, or at least that group did. Many of them raised a lot of money for their page. Some of them, I think, got to like their 2620 with that event. And really there was people who weren't doing the 24 hours who just kind of came out and joined just for the fun. So it was a great way for the group to get together.
It's awesome. I think our next big push was the 2319.
Oh, the 2319. That was a lovely, lovely experience. So to catch everybody up on 2319, we were actually very generously gifted 2 DVC, Disney Vacation Club stays for Springtime Surprise Weekend. We might have gotten into a little bit of trouble with Disney one weekend that involved socks. And the sock thing comes from it's a nod to the Monsters Inc. movie where, you know, the sock ends up on the monster's back and they all yell code 2319. And they all tackle him and get the sock off or whatever. Yeah, it's that movie. Everybody knows that movie. So we one year, I think it was Springtime Surprise, several of our targets, and if you're familiar with DLS, a lot of us run to catch targets on the course who are like friends of ours who are like, hey, if you can catch me, I will donate to like your fundraiser, you know, whatever. So there was several targets on the course that were carrying backpacks full of socks. So when you found them and they would have a sock on their back, you shouted 2319 and they had to give you a sock. Yes, we got in trouble with Disney for that. And we're told that we can't do that again. I think that's actually why they have the no backpack rule now, is because of that. So anyways, when we were coming up with how we were going to do the DVC raffle, we wanted to make sure that like people who were donating specifically to the DVC raffle. Mm-hmm. And this was a whole process. You know, we okayed it with DVC. We actually had reached out to them like, hey, here's what we want to do. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. Like, give us like your rules on it. And they actually set very specific rules for us on it. Like, you know, donations had to go directly to the fundraising page. The people who were donating had to understand that they were using their own points to donate this and everything. So we followed all of their guidelines specifically. But the biggest question is like, how do we get the people who are donating where we can know that they're donating specifically for this? And somebody went, what if we tell people they have to donate exactly $23.19? So I went, that is brilliant. Let's do it. We thought we would raise a couple $1,000s. That was all I was expecting. We did it for it was like a 2-week raffle window. We were only expecting to raise a couple $1,000s. And thankfully, due to the Run Disney community and their support, I don't know what happened, but we ended up raising more than $20,000 with this initiative alone, of people just donating $23.19. We had almost 1,000 donors. I actually had to email the ACS and I'm like, this is very specific, but I'm going to need you to pull a report of everybody who's donated exactly $23.19 between these dates. And their response to me was like, okay, sure.
Chaos coordinator goes.
It turned into like, we're not going to ask questions anymore. Let's just give her report when she's ready for it. So I got the report, and like I said, there was nearly 1,000 names on it, of 2319 and $20,000. And this was not even just to like, you know, a team page. I mean, this was to people's individual pages. Like many of them got to their 2620 through this initiative. And to clarify what 2620 is, with the American Cancer Society, $100 you raised, 2620, for every mile of a marathon. You got a very unique Chicago Marathon ACS hoodie. So there was many people on the team. They're like, oh, I want that hoodie. I want that hoodie. And like I said, for many of them, the 2319 is actually what got them there.
It got me within spitting distance, even like to the point where I was like, well, if I do like 2, you know, I can probably close that gap. And then I did get a very generous donation that did push me way over it. But it was just watching it go in, like I remember just even refreshing when I was at work every, you know, morning, afternoon, was like, holy crap, what did we just do? And fundraise, because that's how we hit our grant naming right, I believe.
That is what pushed us to the $175,000, was the DVC raffle and the 2320 donations. I don't remember where I was at. I was in the middle of something, but all of a sudden I'm just getting screenshot after screenshot after screenshot of people sending it in our group chat of like, we did it. We made it to the 175.
It was so funny because I know I was refreshing at that point, because I think, at least time wise, I not that I'm like to believe that I was the one who did it, but I knew we were so close. I'm like, who's getting close to their hoodie? Okay. And I remember I did donate it. So I was like, because it was like 175, like, oh, I don't even remember what it was. You always go over a little bit to make sure. But, and then even like before we could even like celebrate that much, I felt like we had 180 just like that. we kept going.
Mm-hmm.
We just kept going. The momentum kept up.
We did. It never slowed down. Even after we made it to 175, the team itself didn't slow down.
No.
We had so many people who were so close to the hoodie, and I think ultimately we ended up with 96 actual runners.
Mm-hmm.
We had 99 people on the team, but only 96 ended up running. We had a few people who had to drop for, different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe just over 40 of them made it to the 26:20 mark.
Yeah. There are a couple that were like really close to the wire too, but in a good way, where I remember going like, okay, this person's so close, need to get them across the wire, or get it even long after 2319 was over. I was like, oh, they're so close. Like, I got to do it.
I think if I recall from memory correctly, we made it to $221,000 in total. So we went almost $50,000 over what we needed to name a grant. And like I said earlier, many people go to their minimum and stop, and that's fine. We could have gone to 175 and stopped, but it just truly amazed me that the team went, no, we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep fundraising until we can't fundraise anymore, which, led to us doing laps around the bean in Chicago.
I want to touch on that too, because I remember I was sitting at the dinner and they had the average amount raised per person, and I was under that average. I'm like, oh no, I'm not under average. I remember I turned to who I was sitting with at the dinner. I was like, because I had just donated to myself, because I'm like, I'm above average now. It's like, I can't be bringing the average down. I need to bring it up. But talk to me about the bean, because the shenanigans never stop.
Oh, no, absolutely not with this group. We're always coming up with something to do. And we all do it in the name of charity. Not just the ACS. So many of the individuals that were on this team have run with various charities before in the past. Kelsey's Hope, Dragon Masters, tons of incredible charities. Many of them have been long-standing, runners with. And so we're constantly coming up with new ideas of what we can do to squeeze another penny out of someone. And I had ended up making a post to kind of give some background. Brian Davis, who's our numbers guy.
Data man.
He loves to make fun of my driveway laps, which I used to do my training in my very small driveway that did like a figure 8 loop around. I think it kind of went to like 0.12 of a mile each loop. So incredibly small distance. Brian Davis loved to make fun of it. He would look at it on Strava and just like, oh, Emily's out there doing her driveway laps again. And I'm like, yep, I am. And I ended up making a post kind of to make fun of Brian a little bit, that if for every, what did I think I said, like every $10 or $20 that I raised, like starting from when I got to Chicago, we would go out and do like a lap around, it was originally going to be around Buckingham Fountain, which was about the same distance of my driveway. And then we found out that because of the race, the fountain was closed. So we had to move it over to the bean. And before I knew it, like Brian Davis was like, yep, I'm going to come out and do it. And if I raise this much money, I'm going to do it in my kilt. And then we had several other people who were like, oh yeah, I'm going to come do that too. And then Steven, who wasn't even running the marathon, was like, yep, I'm going to run like 50 laps around it if I raise this much money. And it just got chaotic. And, we had a whole like mess of us out there. And a couple of the villains came out with QR codes and stood out there as we did laps. They were shouting them out. People were asking like, what are you guys doing? So we were explaining to them, like, we're running for the American Cancer Society. We're doing laps to help raise money. We did get a couple donations, like actually out there running around the bean from people. Most of our donations obviously came prior to that because they wanted to see us run laps around the bean. But just getting out there and raising that awareness and just raising a few more dollars and having a ton of fun while we did it. Brian Davis actually brought a extra kilt that he had me put on. So I think I only did like one lap in this kilt. It was very heavy.
And this is his towel rag kilt, correct? His cooling towel kilt.
He was wearing his towel kilt, his mission. What is it? Mission? Yes. The mission towels that you get from Disney after the Disney races. He was wearing that one. I got an authentic Scottish kilt that I put on. Yes. Like I said, it was very heavy. I wore it one lap and I was like, no, this gotta go.
That is amazing, especially just the reach that you can have also in your local community. Yes, it was a giant group of villains, but the reach of Chicago's home to me. But kind of away from home and away from the Disney where people still donated and people wanted to see and participate within the spectacle. Gosh, where did the cheerleading thing come up?
Oh, yes. The cheerleading uniforms. We got so many comments about those during the race. So Princess Weekend, was it Princess 2024? Yes, it was Princess Weekend 2024. We did a theme of villains cheerleaders. It was villains football and cheerleaders. So you could do a football jersey or you can do a cheerleader uniform. Well, the cheerleader uniform was widely popular and we got so many comments on it, and we ran the half marathon in these cheerleader uniforms. And then I can't remember whose idea it was, but somebody went, let's do a Chicago version of the cheerleader uniform. And so we did, and just Chicago loved it. Like and many of us DLS'd the Chicago Marathon. I was one of the ones in the back. There was about 25, 30 of us that did DLS the Chicago Marathon. And just the announcers just loved it. We got so many comments from people, like the spectators, everything. Like they just thought it was the most adorable thing. Some of us had pom-poms. It's one of those things where like, we're just going to do it. Either people are going to comment or they're not going to comment. And, in true villains fashion, we always get comments. I think it also raised a lot of awareness for the ACS as well. We did it. Not only was it Chicago colors, but it was ACS colors as well. Mm-hmm. And many of us kind of put like our own nod to the ACS on it. Like mine said determination, team determination on it, or determination. Some people did team determination. We had our villains logo. Yes, we have a logo.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, absolutely. So it was a play on the original villains cheerleader outfits, just, as a celebration of everything that we accomplished.
Which I loved. And it was great to see certain people on course, especially as I was starting to suffer. But I did get to see, because there was one point where you passed me. I was not doing well. It was around, I think 21, 22, where I felt like that was around when I was trying the hardest to not let any vomit come out of my mouth. It all stayed inside though, even after the race. But I remember every time it was hello villain. When I saw either the bows that Stephanie had made for us with the villains logo in Chicago on there, or I saw someone in a cheerleader dress, or I saw it. So it was comforting, especially I was having a pretty rough day. So every time I saw a villain, I was like, oh, hi villain. And now it's almost how I greet people when I see them anywhere. It's like, hello villain. And that was great. And it was comforting even just for me to see, as I was trying to not yak and yeti everywhere, across the streets of Chicago.
And in a way, it's going to sound a little Superman-y here, but I feel like the villains have kind of become this, beacon of hope during the races. We got a lot of comments after Marathon Weekend where we printed the villains signs, or the villains bibs, and we all, about 100 of us wore them. And it was just, people were able to identify who we were and seeing us and going, oh, there's a villain. They're a good person, which sounds very strange to say there's a villain, they're a good person, but that's really what we've become, especially given anybody who's familiar with the history of DLS. It wasn't always the case. A lot of times people viewed us as, show offs because we go out there to see how many people that we pass or, whatever. But really, it's more of a personal challenge when you DLS. At least it was for me. It was to overcome that fear of, the balloon ladies or starting last or, whatever. And then really my greatest friends have come from the villains. I met my boyfriend through the villains. We're the first actual villain organic relationship, apparently, from what I'm told. So lots of pressure there. But so just hearing people say, though, that, they saw somebody wearing a villain's bib and they just had so much hope because there was a villain there. And we saw so many villains do so many good things during marathon weekend. A couple of villains helped an individual who was really struggling during the marathon get to the finish line. That kind of circulated all over Facebook. Me and my boyfriend personally helped a chair athlete finish her final dopey. Many of us step up all the time to make sure that those who are running races have the most magical experience, even at the cost of our own race. Sometimes we have a plan of what we want to do during a race, and that plan changes because we see another athlete who needs assistance. And that becomes more important. We see it at the Disney races every weekend. We saw it in Chicago. There was a lot of individuals who ran at Chicago who found themselves struggling, and many of the villains stepped in and said, "Hey, how can I help you? Let's keep moving. Let's get to the finish line together." And that's what we do.
Yeah. It always amazes me when I'm like, oh yeah, no, it's like my villain wear. Like I'm going to go to Corral Villain, and like trying to explain it to my mom who like knows enough about Run Disney and what's going on. She no longer thinks it's crazy that I give up my corral position. She's like, didn't you just sit in the runner relation line to make sure your POT got updated? And you're going to go. I was like, well, I had already accepted that they were maybe not going to do it. So I figured I was going to be at least not for the 5K, 10K bib for Dopey. So I was going to be in G anyway, might as well. But I think like kind of like just the impact, right? Where most times you see somebody doing something amazing and that's like, and helpful. It's like, wow, this like angel. I mean, I watched the Mad Hatter pick up the one lady who was struggling. I did not see when Spider-Man joined the group of the villains. So I watched that happen when I was behind them and I was peering over. I saw a villain bib on the back. I was like, okay, if he's got her, he's got her. Like that's one of us. It's funny though, because something again that I feel like used to be like, oh yeah, you guys are, tryhards. Even just doing a DLS during Dopey, which first of all, I never thought I would do ever. And then like I still need to kind of conquer the fear of doing it during a half, but I will. But I had people who were like, oh, here, take my kill. Like as I was, safely passing because people, like I wore the bow on the back and people were like, oh, take it. Because, we can't make noises at anybody, but they made it to me. As I passed them, they made the pew pew. So I didn't. I follow the rules. But it's amazing. It's amazing to see the impact and just, again, like some of the people that I've gotten to know and been like so like grateful to get to know over this last year are like, it's just been amazing and very, very impactful. And like, I mean, I'm like, okay, like live and die by the villains. Like, it's like, okay, what stuff are we getting up to next year?
Yes, absolutely.
It's amazing. It's, you have people that have your back because you have theirs too.
Yeah. Just seeing a group of people like this come together. And really we owe it to David Thompson for making villains a thing. I'm not leader of the villains by any means. I mean, I've DLS'd every single race since Princess 2023. So I'm well known. But really it's David who just created this incredible group of people who've come through, truly have made a difference. Many, many of them are charity runners, and have been charity runners for a long time. We all support each other. We encourage each other. Many of our new villains are actually villains that we brought in because we were like, hey, I'm starting in the back. Come join me and see that this is a really great group of people and make friends, make this an enjoyable experience. All of my most amazing experiences have been with the villains, doing DLS, starting in the back, hanging out for that hour before the races start. And just, how it's like a party back there. We have a great time and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They can keep my Corral A. I don't need it.
Yeah, it absolutely. It's truly amazing back there. And then also like the mindset shift of like, oh, I can sleep in and like get on the last bus and like, I'm not worried about it because I'm not starting for 2 hours anyway. The characters have already gone away by the time I get there. It's amazing. Just kind of, it is such a mindset shift too. Cause again, like the whole point was that you can have a good race from wherever on a Disney course, right?
Yep.
You know, that you can. And I truly don't feel like the back is all that it hasn't been as bad as I ever have thought it would be, to be honest with you.
Also, no bathroom lines.
True. Well, it's funny too, because like I'm almost the beacon when I have friends who know I'm going to DLS. I'm almost the beacon for them of like, if they're wondering exactly when the balloons started, it was 30 seconds ago. Here you go. Without having to check Telegram or check something or creepily track somebody. Nope, I'll just let you know. I'm there. I don't see them anymore, but that they're there. Or like, I'm about to start next wave, so that means like, you know, you got about 30 seconds till I start, so probably about another minute-ish till they do, if that. So it's like the little beacon for, but yeah, it's the paranoia that's gone, you know, and you don't have to be like a speed demon to do this either.
No, you do not.
And still have a fun time.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you as well, you know, you don't have to be a speed demon, but you also can be fast from the back too. I ran Princess 2024. I actually ran from the back. I ran a 2:22 in the half marathon.
Pop off.
Yeah. So that's also to, you know, goes both ways. You don't have to be fast. Many of our runners or athletes who start in the back with us, many of them, sometimes they finish with the balloon ladies by choice. So I'm going to put that out there. But sometimes they just hang out with the balloon ladies, or they might do a 14 or 15 minute mile and they're fine. And they still do character stop. They still, you know, go ride Everest during the marathon. Like, you know, they build their buffer from there. And so it's really truly making the race what you want it to be. And I feel like you have that freedom from the back to do that. And of course, you know, nobody ever has to come and start in the back if they don't want to. You know, we all have our corral placements and you're entitled to it. But at the end of the day, like David went out to prove all those years ago, you can have the race you want to have no matter where you're at.
Next on my bucket list is like running like a race from the back. Like I don't want to say necessarily like go for POT type of race, but I mean like go for like, I call it a pure race, but then I get made fun of by Brian saying, are you saying we're not pure? Like, okay, yes, but also no. I mean like not doing as many character stops as I'd like to, or, you know, or just figuring out how to, glorified playtime. I mean, like actually, like if I wanted to race it, what can I do? And like, you know, again, take away that fear. And not even not that it's necessarily fear anymore to me, but like POTs only last so long, and sometimes even less than that when your link decides to go out over the summer, right when they decide to start verifying. It's wild. But, you know, first of all, it's not the end of the world, especially if you're somebody who but it's even if you're not somebody who actually has that kind of a speed to you, you're going to be good. And also, you know, you might end up doing something like literally history setting, which we did as a team.
We did. And that was all because a group of people got together in the last corral and decided to start last. You know, it's one of those things, it sounds like you really just can't comprehend really what happened. Like, I always say, like, you know, you asked me, like, how did this become what it became? And I want to say that I really don't know. All I know is there was a group of us that came together because we're crazy and we wanted to do something different to mix it up. And we started in the back of the corral, and here we are $221,000 later.
Which is amazing. Talk to me about starting at the very, very back for Chicago, because I actually haven't talked to anybody about this.
Oh, it was fun. So you know, like I said, I ran Chicago the year before, so I didn't need the star or anything. So it wasn't about, you know, finishing before cutoff to make sure I got my star or anything like that. It was more just, I want to be with my friends. And we found out that Brian Davis had the ability to pull the Chicago numbers similar to how he does for Run Disney. And of course, once a group of us learned that, we went, oh, going to the back. I think I had last corral anyways for some reason. For me, it was a no-brainer that I was starting in the back anyways. But once a chunk of us heard that, we were like, oh, let's go out there and start in the back. And I did actually race Chicago. I was going for a sub 5 in Chicago. I did miss it by 6 minutes. I ran a 5:06.
Hold on. I know some of the context here, but let's talk about what you did a couple weeks before Chicago and then a couple weeks after.
Semi-planned / not unplanned. I went out and ran the World Majors Fall Trifecta, which is Berlin, Chicago, and New York. And they are literally all exactly 3 weeks apart. So I had a 2 weekends off before I turned around and ran the next World Major. It is a rarity. It doesn't happen very often. I completely lucked into it. So Berlin 2025, I got into on the lottery. I went back and forth on deferring because of Chicago, but then I went, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and do it because a friend of mine, she needed the Berlin star.
Okay.
And so she was like, I'm going to get a charity bib. I'm going to go. And I'm like, okay, great. Like I got in on the lottery. I'll go with you. So I ran Berlin. The 3 weeks later, I turned around and then ran Chicago with the Villains, which I already knew I was doing like the whole year before because I registered the day after the Chicago Marathon in 2024. And then completely, I don't want to say last minute. It wasn't like my London Marathon last minute, but semi last minute, it did come through at the end of June. I was offered a spot with a tour operator to run the New York City Marathon. I did not have my New York City Marathon star, so I could not let that one pass. I had to run New York because New York became my 5th star. So when that email came through, I was like, oh, damn it. So I'm like, there's no way to defer New York. It had to happen. So turned around that 3 weeks later, first weekend in November, I ran the New York Marathon, which I actually ran that one in 5:10, which was really impressive.
Okay. If you didn't bring it up, I was going to.
I just ran Chicago in 5:06 and I felt like I was racing Chicago. I actually thought that I was not going to be able to go into New York. Throwing out a time like that for a multitude of reasons. One, I had just done 2 marathons like immediately before that. Plus, New York has a lot. I don't want to say hills. They're not really at hills, but they've got all the bridges. So you're going over these inclines. New York is a more challenging course than Berlin and Chicago. So I was not expecting much out of New York, but I also knew I had until like midnight, or is it 10 p.m.? I think it's 10 p.m. to finish New York. So you have lots of time to finish in New York and get your star. Somehow I was still feeling really good that day. Went out there, ran a 5:10, which was only 4 minutes slower than Chicago. Super proud of myself. I finished before it got dark. I did not get out of Central Park before it got dark, but I finished before it got dark. And that's usually a lot of people have that goal. So yes, I did run the Fall Trifecta, which got me my 5th star.
So we have to talk about your spring plans now.
We have to talk about my spring plan. All right. So my spring plan, well, I did just run Dopey. Couple weeks ago. It was great. I said it's my last one. We'll see.
Yeah, okay.
However, other than some few smaller races here and there, I will be running the 2026 Boston Marathon with a wonderful charity called In My Running Shoes. They are a nonprofit that was established in 2019 that provides support for individuals with chronic illnesses who struggle with mobility. So where you could potentially be declined by your insurance company to get a mobility device that you need to be active, this organization will actually provide the funds and grants that you need to get these devices where insurance companies might be falling short. Wonderful charity. As somebody myself who does have a chronic illness that can impact my mobility, I really connected to that. And I do want to really preach them. I know we've talked about the ACS a lot. The ACS is a wonderful organization. But In My Running Shoes, they are much smaller. I don't think they're very well recognized yet. So I really want to put them out there and have people go and check out the incredible work that they do. It's important to me because, like I said, it's very important to me that people go and check out and make donations to them because what they are doing is just phenomenal. And with the possibility of me needing one of those mobility devices one day, it's great to know that there is an organization there that can help.
It's amazing. How are you feeling kind of going into Boston? I guess you stay marathon trained, but how are you feeling? Like, because that's it. Well, that's number 6 of your legacy 6-star. How are you feeling kind of going into it?
I'm feeling like anybody, going into that last star. Like you said, it's the Legacy 6. This will be my 6-star medal. Boston is, very prestigious. It has a name. People know it. They know Boston. They may not know some of the other ones, but they know Boston. So it carries its own weight just with that alone. For me, I know I can run a marathon, run many marathons. I'm a 4-time dopey finisher. I've run 5 of the world majors. 2 of them, 3 of them I've done twice. But Boston for me is just, this is it. Like, this is kind of how you study for a test. Now I'm at the test. And, I'm feeling good because I've been studying for 4 years. So, but it's it's a lot of, I've put in so much work for this. Like, it's my moment. So it's a whole world of nerves and excitement just kind of all bundled into one.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'd be freaking out. With the way I treated Chicago, like not only the Olympic trials, but also like the Olympic Games, to me, biggest moment ever type of thing. And, while I didn't have the fairy tale ending that I wanted there, that just means redemption time. That just means that the chapter is not closed. I'd be freaking out in a good way too. Cause the absolute FOMO I've gotten about Boston the last couple of years, it's been absolutely wild. I'm really good friends in the running community. Kate, living the KG life, who had her Boston redemption last spring too. So she did cross that finish line. I want it. I definitely want it. I know it's not like it'll be a couple of years, I think, at least thinking going the charity route as well. But I'm so excited for you. So what are you going to do with your 6-star medal? Like, are you going to Disney World that'll be quite the photo shoot to do.
It will, and actually several villains will be getting their 6-star medal at the same race. My friend Brandy, she's a Disneyland villain, but she's still a villain. She'll be getting hers. Matt Krebs will be getting his 6-star medal also at Boston this year. So, there's a handful of us that'll be getting our medals. Definitely going to have to do those Disney photo shoots, that it is where it started. But, looking past Boston, I don't know what that looks like. A lot of people like to ask me if I'm going to go for the 9-star or whatever it is. I have no plans for that right now. It's been a long road of just constantly being in marathon training that I kind of want to go back a little bit to what running was before I was in marathon training all the time. Am I hanging up my shoes with marathons? Absolutely not. I have way too much fun out there. That's not happening. I'm already registered to do Chicago again for 2026. More marathons will be taking place for sure.
I was going to ask kind of, even though you do keep yourself so marathon trained, kind of, are you looking forward to a little bit, at least a little reprieve? Because let me tell you, and mine is not nearly where you're at. I did Dopey 25 to Chicago to Dopey again. And let me tell you, the fact that right now at this point in time, everybody, I am not signed up for a marathon makes me really happy. I know it's going to change because also I'm feral. So I'm like, well, I could do that spring marathon. No. But at the same time, it's nice to know that I don't have one. I know Dopey 27 is going to happen. Probably. Almost certainly it will. I know I am going to lotto for New York and we'll see what happens there. Otherwise, every women's marathon, I kind of have that as a potential for the fall as well. So it's kind of but it also feels nice that for the first time in a long time, I don't have something I'm already registered for. This time it feels like a choice. It's always been a choice, but at the same time, it's yeah, I want to do 26.2. The first half person who to run a marathon they died. So, but I want to do it again and again. Because I think the marathon distance is fun too. Even though I sent a lot of marathons or dumb text messages during Dopey, it's fine. I stopped sending them after I got to the point where I started getting nauseous in Chicago. So I was at mile 14-ish. I stopped sending the marathons are dumb messages a little bit after I cleared that threshold well. Have you ever had an interest to do an ultra?
I have not actually. That is kind of where I draw the line a little bit. You know, my boyfriend is actually huge into ultras. He does them, and I'm like, no, I think I'm good at 26.2. I'm not a trail runner. I don't care for trails by any means. A lot of ultras, at least the ones here in Florida, are typically on trails or at least part trail, part concrete. And I'm like, no, I'm a road runner. Like I need all concrete.
So I need Marine Corps to come back. I need the Marine Corps 50 to come back. Because that's just an extra blip on road.
Yeah, no, I feel like I kind of tap out a little bit at 26.2. Like, and, you know, let's be honest, at Disney, it's really like 28. Okay. Like,
so real.
Yeah. So I think that that's kind of like the furthest I'm going to ever go. I don't know, you know, I'm constantly seeking out new challenges, you know, new, like I said, that's how I ended up DLSing, new challenge, you know? So it's hard to say what the future is going to look like. For me, surviving Boston right now is what that looks like. And then, you know, from there, I would definitely like to, you know, hit some of those more time goals, because if I'm being honest, you know, when you're constantly marathon training, you're marathon training, you're not time training. For me, I would love to see like what my true physical potential is just as far as speed goes. But no, the ultra world is not something I'm looking to tap into right now.
Totally fair on that. Because I was curious if you kind of had any speed related things, especially when you're used to running Disney races or, you know, running like 3 marathons in 9 weeks. When you wake up and you do one and it's like, wow, I'm not that fatigued. What is this feeling? What is this feeling where I actually have energy because I haven't been putzing around Disney for like 3 days straight, and I haven't been doing this for 3 days straight. And then it's not 2 a.m. that I just woke up and I'm like running a challenge, and that's what I can run a half marathon in. Oh, okay. I got to say, I didn't have that feeling in Chicago where I expected to just have the zoomies. That's why I need another redemption marathon, because Chicago was my first standalone marathon where I did not, it wasn't a challenge. It wasn't dopey. It wasn't goofy. So I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, it's weird getting to be able to sleep in, right? Like,
I still woke up at I think I tried to wake up around my Run Disney time, and I'm like, no, go back to bed. It wasn't like on purpose, but it was like, I remember like sitting in my hotel room the night before Chicago. I was like, okay, it's 5 p.m. Like, I feel like I got to go to bed, but like, I don't know if I'm going to sleep the whole night if I do that. Like, it's not, okay, not 5 p.m. I was like, just shift it by a couple hours. It's like a time zone. Okay. All right. Now at 5 p.m. is 7 p.m. and 3 a.m. I don't think I got out of bed till like 4, but it was one of those things where I was like, this doesn't, like, I need to take my Disney brain. Like, I need to put things in my Disney brain, and I'm not going to see Mickey. So I need other things to help me with that. What advice would you have to somebody who might be kind of fundraising for their very first time, or even if it's not their first time fundraising, a way bigger amount than they've ever fundraised before, and they're kind of scared?
That's a fantastic question. And I do see it all the time across many of the groups of, I'm looking to do a charity bid because the races are sold out, but I just don't know how I feel about, you know, posting on Facebook or asking friends and family. You know, it's not as scary as you're going to make it out in your head at all. If you're willing to go out and take chances and take risk and put yourself in front of people, you will 100% be successful in your fundraising endeavor. My advice is always going to be, you know, stretch and reach out to every avenue you have. There are so many resources out there, or so many things that you can consider when it comes to fundraising to be successful. I would like to say that all I'm doing is posting on social media and people are just donating, but that is not the case at all. You know, rarely are my donations coming from, you know, social media outlet. They are coming from me personally talking to people, or, you know, I do a lot of like selling things, you know, to raise funds that way. And then I look into, you know, company matches and things like that to really double up that dollar. But the biggest one is just like, go out and talk to people, like make sure you're putting like your words into your cause. A huge fundraising mistake that I'll see from people is they'll just say like, oh, I'm running Dopey for the American Cancer Society. Please go and make a donation. But like, why? Why are you doing that? Why are you running specifically for the American Cancer Society? I don't want to pay for your bib. I want to know why this cause is important to you. And you really should put your words out there and explain to me. If you're running for your father because, you know, your father passed away, like, tell me that. Like, I know it's hard, but if I'm hearing a story from you, I'm looking past the bib and I'm seeing the cause. And that's what I want to see as a donor. So I always tell people, you know, really, really put yourself out there, even if it hurts, even if your story hurts. I get it. But that's what you need to do. Connect to people, whether it be, if you're going to do the social media route, make sure you're really putting those words in that post. If you're going to talk to people, make it a real conversation so that they can connect to you. And that's the biggest fundraising effort you will make is going to be that connection.
Absolutely. I agree. The number of villains who said, damn it, Natalie, you just made me cry. When I honestly, like, I told my story, just not even part of, I think, of the 2319 push. I just told my story, and it's not like I heard cha-ching, 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 but I kept getting emails from American Cancer Society about it. And it wasn't something I, again, sought out like, oh, this is, you know, I mean, I had my story as part of my page, but people who then felt compelled because they connected to that story. And also, I mean, I would say also finding causes that you actually believe in, because that makes that connection so much easier, right? Like, I live and die by ACS because, you know, it services and resources I've used both during my dad's fight and then also as like support at different like cancer resource centers when I was a teenager, that like, you know, for support of family members going through cancer. So like, it's something I show that I believe in. And I always try to seek out causes where some of the other bibs that I have, organizations I have fundraised for, Dragon Master, Team Force, like it all comes back to cancer, unfortunately, because unfortunately that is part of my story. But just because it's part of my story doesn't mean that I'm going to let that ending stay the ending, that I'm going to work toward that not being the ending for other people, right? That's what this is all for at the end of the day. So that's really, really great advice. I would say, you know, I think I don't want to necessarily say decluttering, but I'm even sitting here thinking and like brainstorming. I have a bunch of friends who are doing Chicago for charity, and I'm a lot better at making up ideas for other people to fundraise than I am myself. I did great on my fundraising, but I'm like, dang, where was that idea? Like, where was that idea? In a lot of ways, where I was just thinking, I was like, you know, I think I have like some costume-esque clutter that I think I can start like selling, and like, dang, that would be a good charity fundraiser. And maybe that's what I'll do, is that then I'll just toss it toward a fundraiser that's important to me. Or, you know, I guess I technically am still actively fundraising for a charity bid, but I haven't hit, I grabbed my Princess 5K for later this month because I didn't want to deal with general registration. I was like, okay, American Cancer Society, done. That was the easiest yes ever to do that. But I'm sure I know that my story with them doesn't necessarily end, because if there's like a wait list for Chicago in 28, I'm on it. Maybe 27 as well, but definitely 28. I'm already like in. I've penciled it in already. And as soon, I'm going to be stalking the email for when that goes live, because that's the 50th for Chicago. And I want it. I want in. Absolutely want in.
It'll be fun. I will be there. So
I want to kind of engage a little bit more in the villainry, because I mean, I was kind of a BB villain anyway, but I want to definitely engage. So like engage more in everything, and we'll see. That's why maybe I need 27 to take it seriously and 28 to play again. I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then it's funny because we have these things called audio records in terms of podcasts. And then I'm going to go, oh, Natalie, in a couple years, it'll be great. But I know that I'll be there. And I know that, I mean, American Cancer Society is an important part of that. That's how, you know, even though my dad's not here physically anymore, that's what my older brother raised his funds for. My dad was there for his first Chicago. Where can people find you, your causes? We'll have these in the show notes too, but any plugs you want to drop?
I I am not as connected into social media as some other people are. I mean, of course, I'm relatively well known in the Run Disney community just by being a villain. I'm also relatively active in all of the Run Disney groups as well. You can find me. I'm Emily Taylor. My photo is literally of me running through Disney. So I can be found. I'm also the one who's always selling medals in the Run Disney Run marketplaces and stuff. That's me. Yep. Listen, people actually donate their medals to me to sell for my causes. I'm constantly fundraising for charity, many charities. Obviously right now the big one is Boston, because we all know what the Boston numbers are.
Yeah.
But I have been, in the charity world for 5 years. I'm well known by it. People 100% just expect me to always be fundraising. So that's also a good place you can find me. But yeah, I'm in the group. I'm there. I'm always posting.
It is funny though, because whenever a race weekend ends, I know tons of people who kind of cobble together their challenges. So I was like, I wonder when Emily's going to post her medals. Someone looking for a goofy because they put it together themselves, or I've known people who, especially in the virtual years, cobbled together their dopies off of mixture of virtuals and then getting the goofy challenge and whatnot. So if you're ever looking for that, she's your girl, and it always goes to a good cause.
Absolutely. All donations go straight to whatever charity I have at the moment. Usually, most of the time, it's the American Cancer Society. Right now, it's in my running shoes, or it would go to my personal charity that I operate myself, for Paws of Hope. That is an animal nonprofit. It's going to one of those causes.
And if you're ever looking for a place to deposit old shoe boxes, Emily usually is your girl.
Yep, that post was mine too.
I was going to say, don't want to take your shoebox home from the Brooks Expo? You got someone who will usually take it off your hands. All right, so this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming on.
No, this was fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Emily for joining me this week on the podcast. It was very, very exciting and very fun. And we wish her all the best going into the Boston Marathon. So exciting, and it'll be here before we know it. If you enjoyed listening to the show, please leave a review and a 5-star rating. We'd love reading your reviews out loud. You might even be featured on a future podcast episode. There is a community spotlight on the Instagram at Stride Sisters Podcast. If you want to be featured for a Medal Monday, Finish Line Friday, or any accomplishment you want to celebrate, send a picture via the social media platforms or the email. And to continue the fun, join the Facebook page. All the ways to connect can be found in the show notes. Thanks for listening. Until our next adventure, wishing you endless miles of magic and memories. See you next time.